Hello everyone, my name is Linda Taylor and I'm a software engineer in the Active Directory development team at Microsoft. In this video I'll be demoing the new improvements in the DC location algorithm. If you haven't seen our session on technical takeoff regarding all the new features in the Active Directory domain services, I also highly recommend you go and watch that for some background. So I'm here on the main page for what's new in Active Directory domain services inside the preview documentation, where we have documented some brief overviews of all of the new bits in the insider preview. In today's demo, we will be looking at the improvements in DC location algorithm, and even though it looks like a very small section, there's actually a whole dedicated page on the DC locator changes. I also want to give a shout out to my teammate Jay Simmons, who actually did all the hard work here that I'll be demoing today. So as of the next version of Windows, the DC location algorithm no longer uses mouse locks for NetBIOS based discovery when it only has a NetBIOS name and it needs to find the domain. For this demo, I have, let's close this. I have two forests. I have contoso.com forest on the left hand side here, and on the right hand side I have fabricam.com. These two forests don't have a trust between them. They just have some DNS settings so they can find each other with DNS. The first new thing I want to demo is that the behavior that we are discussing, not to use Wins and mouse locks, can also be controlled through some group policies. These new group policies can be found under Computer Configuration in the Admin Templates section, and in System, under Netlogon, inside the DC Locator and DNS Records folder. You will notice that there are two new settings that relate to NetBIOS-based discovery. The first one is do not use NetBIOS-based discovery for domain controller location when DNS-based discovery fails. So this is the default behavior, but you can control it with a policy. And the second one is block NetBIOS-based discovery for domain controller location. Again, it's secure by default. Okay, so what happens instead now? So instead, the Netlogon service downloads from the domain controller a set of name mapping pairs to keep itself knowledgeable about DNS style names that map to different NetBIOS names. So how can you see what Netlogon knows about? I'll be using the tool called NLTest to show you this demo. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run NLTest / list dcloc mappings. This tells us about what name mappings Netlogon knows about. Here you can see I know about my own domain called fabricam.com, the DNS name, mapped to fab NetBIOS name. On the left hand side here, it tells us where it got this information from. So this particular name mapping was found through looking at the trusts. There are also other sources that we discussed in our presentation. So just to show you, if I run NLTest / dsget dc name, dsget dc, and try to locate a DC in Contoso using its NetBIOS name, it's not going to be able to do that because it doesn't know what Contoso means. So another new piece of functionality that relates to these changes is the ability to define some admin-based mappings as well as what's already in the trust-based information. And you can do that here in Active Directory Domains and Trusts. As a domain admin, you can go and add some DC locator mappings in this new tab. So I'm going to add contoso.com and the NetBIOS name Contoso as a name pair. I'm going to say OK and apply. So my domain or my DC now knows about this name mapping and it will store it in Active Directory. Just in case you're wondering where, let me show you. So I've just opened a tool called LDP, which is a very basic LDAP browser, and it's just one of my favorite tools of browsing AD. So I'm going to bind to this domain controller, and I'm going to view the configuration container. This is where we store these admin-based mappings, and those are stored under Services and Windows NT. You will see a new object or a container called DC Locator Domain Name Mappings, funny enough. And in here you can see that this is where it's stored my new name pair in an MSDS settings attribute on this object. So Netlogon will now also query this in addition to all the trust information and all the other information when it's trying to learn about the name pairs and then resolve the names during DC location. So you've probably noticed I'm using this as a client and a DC just for the simplicity of the demo, but in real life this would be a client machine. So the Netlogon service will download these name mappings periodically and not all the time. So to help it do so quickly in this demo, we can run another command called nltest update DC loc mappings. Usually Netlogon will do this every 12 hours. And you can see it says a DC locator name mappings update request was successfully submitted. And check the Microsoft Windows security Netlogon operational event log for details. So you can go there and check that. This is where it will log the outcome. But for the purposes of the demo, I know it's working. So I'm now again going to say nltest list DC loc mappings. And we can now see that I have a new mapping from the source admin. So this is the admin based mapping that somebody has defined. And it says that contoso.com maps to Contoso. And just to show you that we can also now find a DC in Contoso by running nltest dsgetDC Contoso. And there we go, we have found a DC. And that's because the DC locator knew that Contoso maps to contoso.com, so then it could go and ask DNS. And there was absolutely no need for mouse lots or NetBIOS names. One last thing I want to show you on this demo is you may know that if you want to troubleshoot DC location and also anything that Netlogon does is always logged to a debug log called the Netlogon log. And you can enable that using nltest as well. nltest/db flag. There are different flags. I'm just going to enable all of them. They are documented just for fun. And if I now go and update the mappings again, just for fun, and open the Netlogon log, the Netlogon log lives in C Windows debug folder. And it's a very easy to read text file that has anything DC locator and Netlogon in it. So if we go right to the bottom of it, somewhere around here, we can see the request for the name mappings, starting and then successfully completing. And we can also see the dsgetDC name calls and such. Okay, and that concludes today's demo. Thank you very much.